Oh, okay. So now I see some of our friends from Port Authority too.
I just exited her.
Hi, Dan.
How are you?
Okay. So Dan, is Stella here? Can you tell? Is Stella here? Dan?
I'm looking.
Oh, you're coming in person. Great. I'll mark you down. We've got a quorum, so we can begin. Yes, yes, okay. Okay, so everybody can hear me, and we're ready to begin. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to Community Board 2, Manhattan's Traffic and Transportation Committee. I am Shirley Secunda, the chair of the committee, and I would like to introduce the members of my committee who are here. So Amy, why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Amy Brana. Hello. Janine Kiley, vice chair of the committee.
Ben Listman.
Lois Racco, full board member.
Stella Husero, full board member.
Right, so those are our members right now. A few others may be coming in, and we'll introduce them when they come. So tonight we have two topics on our agenda, and I'll just give you a brief summary of the process for any of you who do not know how we work. Basically, the two items on the agenda are heard separately. Once they are heard, in each case, after the topic, the committee asks questions, board members ask questions and do comments. Then we open it up to our guests who can ask questions and make as many comments as they want. And that goes for both of the topics. And there is something a little different tonight. Our first topic is actually split into two presentations. I should say three presentations. And I should introduce Susan Gabby, who is another member of the committee. So say hi, Susan, and we'll lock you in. Okay, so the first topic, accessoride, is actually divided into two different segments. The first segment, we have representatives from MTA New York City Transit giving us an overview of the accessoride program. And then for the second half, we have two guests who represent users and disabled in action and will give you their impressions of using accessoride. Is that very good? Okay, fine. Ground rules, okay. I'm sure you all know not to speak out, that you have to raise your hand, and that there's a little raise hand symbol at the bottom of your screens for those online. For those here, just raise your hand. We won't entertain the hand raising until each of the presentations are done. I really think that's about it. Sequence. After the presentations, the board goes into what we call business session. That's what we're calling it these days, right? Rather than executive session. And that is when we discuss what we've just heard and we decide whether we will take positions. In this case, the second one is for revocable consent. And in that case, we will definitely be taking a position because we do have to respond to the request for revocable consent. And I really think that's it. Oh, one more thing. Not final, even after the meeting, when we take whatever votes we need to. This then goes to the full board meeting where all the committees meet and make any final votes that are necessary. And that will be on June 18th. That is a Wednesday. We actually meet usually on a Thursday, but this time we are meeting on a Wednesday. So just to inform you of that. And I think with that, we can get a start. I guess the first thing I'm going to ask you are our guests from MTA New York City Transit here, which would be Ruby Benitez and Tammy Francisque. And pardon me if I'm pronouncing it wrong.
We need to elevate Tammy, and I wasn't made a host, Shirley, so I can't actually do that.
All right, so I'll do that right now.
Okay.
If you could make
Mark's
me a
on it.
co-host too.
Oh, yeah, make Janine a co-host as well. Hello, sorry, you can introduce.
No?
And while we're doing that, another member of our committee came in.
Rocio Sands.
Okay, so that's it. So do we have both Ruby and Tammy?
Oh, yes, Ruby Benefit is here.
Okay, and Tammy, okay. And
I am here now.
Ruby is the Assistant Director of Government and Community Relations, and Tammy is from the Accessoride Program. So they are ready to tell us about the program. Go to it. And welcome. Are you ready?
Okay, welcome. Good morning. I wasn't sure if I was going first. Now I'm elevated. Hi, good
You are
evening, everyone. Hi, my name is Tammy Francis. I'm a manager in the outreach unit at Customer Relations at Accessoride. I've been with Accessoride for over 18 years. I've
Wow.
seen Accessoride go through many transitions, and I'm here to share a little bit of information with you about Accessoride. And I thank you for having me here this evening. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and start sharing my presentation, and we can answer any questions that you have when I'm done, okay?
Okay, well, actually, we're going to hold the questions till the other
Till the-
also talks, yes.
Okay, no worries.
Right.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Let me just move some things out of the way. In the beginning. Okay. Okay, so Accessoride, of course, is a paratransit service for New York City. I'll tell you a little bit about it. This is our main number, 877-337-2017. We also have a local number, 718-393-4999. And you can reach us at mta.info for many of your questions about Accessoride. Okay, so Accessoride operates within the 5 boroughs of New York City and 3/4 miles into Westchester, Nassau County. It's a shared ride program, so you may ride with another customer. It's an origin to destination service. It's non-priority trips with maximum ride times based on trip distance. Okay, it's 24 hours a day we operate, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Reservations must be made 1 to 2 days in advance from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we operate in compliance with the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act under ADA. Okay. And Accessoride also provides visitor and reciprocal paratransit service. So you can get it if you are registered for paratransit services in another state. You can call Accessoride when you come visit or vice versa, and they will share your documentation, and then you are able to use it as visitor service when you go to another state. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about our providers. We have private carriers under contract with New York City Transit. They provide service with lift-equipped vehicles, ramp-equipped vehicles, and also we have now blue and white. Now our vehicles are blue and yellow. We're transitioning to blue and yellow to be in line with our buses, our public buses. So we're going to be, transitioning all of our vehicles into those. We also have SUVs, and we refer to our big vans that you see here as our dedicated or primary vehicles. Okay, and then we also have taxis. We actually contract out to taxi services, and they should always have Accessoride logo in it so that you will know the difference between our vehicles and others. Okay, all of our vehicles, our vehicles cannot accommodate wheelchairs or scooters wider than 33 inches, longer than 51 inches, and weighing more than 800 pounds when occupied. Okay, the service is also provided by broker service. You might hear people say broker service, so that's our for hire, but we have them under contract. Accessoride does not insure a particular service. It's very, very important to know. People feel like they want a certain vehicle, but we do have to, one, provide vehicles that we actually have available, and also vehicles based on accessibility needs. Okay, these are some of our other providers that we have, which we call supplemental carriers, and they are GoGo, D&J, ABBA, and VGM. Okay, and they will look like this, but they should also have Accessoride logo. Okay, and this is our new Ford E350. It joined our fleet. It has new features on it, new technology in the vehicle. This is an example of the tie downs, the strap downs that are used to tie down the wheelchairs. And you'll see they have coated hooks on them so it doesn't damage the vehicle, and also has a sort of a ratchet system that that secures and pulls the vehicle tight so that we can speed up the process of strapping down the chairs. Okay, it has rubberized hooks and buckles and a rugged surface to non-slip, and it's a much better equipment in the vehicles. Okay, these are just examples of some of our vehicles and our boarding and lighting. This is how we will board customers. Just wanted to give you some examples of that. So how to apply or recertify. Whether it's a long-term or temporary eligibility is needed, Accessoride has and will expire for customers, usually every 5 years. If it's someone who has a full eligibility, we do have a temporary, like I said, service and visitor status. So those will be less, but everyone must come in to recertify every 5 years. Or if it's someone who has a continuing disability, they would just have to send in documentation every 5 years so that we can know that they still need Accessoride. Okay, everyone must come in for the in-person assessment. We do have 6 current centers located in Brooklyn. There's 2 in Brooklyn, 1 in Manhattan, 1 in Staten Island, 1 in Queens, and 1 in the Bronx. Okay, and this process ensures that it's fair for all customers, appropriate eligibility status to all applicants more quickly and objectively. Okay, we also provide interpretation and documentation translation services, which is a free service for anyone not speaking English. Okay. How to apply? We do also have, if you go onto the mta.info website, you can request the application. You can do an inquiry form, and that will trigger the process to get started to request an application, or you can just call Accessoride to request an application. Okay, how to make a reservation? Like I said, 1 to 2 days in advance, 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can call on the phone by pressing prompt number 2 at the 877 number I mentioned earlier. You can book your trips online or by using the MTA app. So there's lots of options. Very quickly, you might have heard people say pick up and drop off time or departure or appointment time. There's different ways that you can make an appointment. We do try to encourage customers to make it as an appointment time, as that will ensure that you get to your destination on time, as opposed to a pickup time, which will make the trip go by the ride time guidelines instead, which will be a little bit longer. So we do kind of try to teach customers how to book their trips if they are in a rush or if they have appointments. It really is helpful to do it that way. And there's appointment time, as I was mentioning. It's a requested time to be dropped off. Okay, and the fare is $2.90. If a customer is approved for a personal care attendant, which we call PCA, they ride for free, and each additional guest pays $2.90. Okay, we have a video tutorial on how to use our app on the mta.info website. For our subscription service, it's a service that we offer for a customer to call one time, and then the vehicle will come automatically to get them if they are traveling to one location several times a week at the same time. And it's a useful service that you don't have to call manually every day. Okay, and that's something we can provide information on a little bit later if you have any questions about that. Okay, on the day of your trip, very important to call, press prompt number 3 to get the status of the trip. You can speak to a live person, or you can use the app to track your vehicle. Okay, if someone arrives at their destination and they find that they're going to be late or they're not able to get their vehicle on time, the appointment's running late, they can call Accessoride and request a later trip. Okay, we do offer, if a customer is traveling within their borough, they can request taxi authorization ahead of time. At the time of reservation, they can call and request taxi authorization if they're able to pay out of pocket. And then once they are finished with their trip, they get an authorization number and they can submit their taxi receipts for reimbursement, which is minus the accessorized fare. So it's the total minus the accessorized fare and up to 15% of a tip. Okay, and this is something you can do the new advanced taxi authorization. You can do that online. So that is available as well. So I just want to tell you a little bit about Omni because we are transitioning from our accessorized Metro card to our Omni. So transition is gradually happening starting in December 2024. We're transitioning now into Omni. Some customers have received their cards already. Everyone is going to receive the card. Okay, so accessorized Omni card is a single card that replaces the accessorized ID and the Metro card if a customer has one previously. The newly introduced accessorized Omni ID card functions as an official photo identification card. Okay, the single card for accessorized subways and local buses. So this is going to be the one card. OmniCard offers a new payment method, okay, in addition to cash on board. So some customers can still pay cash if they want, but if they want the option to be a cashless travel system, they can use Omni, okay, by loading their card online and also in locations. So it's a seamless contactless payment system when you tap on the bus in subways, or you pay on Accessoride by making your reservation. And we have on the back end that we know that you're going to pay with Omni. So it's no cash. Customers who register can manage their card account and balances online. And funds can be added, as I said, at retail merchants, at Omni vending machines, or by phone. The zero fare taps for eligible customers will receive 4 zero fare trips per day on subway and local buses. Zero fare taps do not count toward the 7-day fare cap. Okay? Zero fare taps reset daily and do not accumulate. Okay? The PCA support. When an accessorized Omni ID card indicates PCA or personal care attendant, that person may accompany the accessorized customer on AAR vehicles, subways, and local buses free of charge. So similar as I said before. Okay, additional persons must pay their own fare. So here's an example of the Omni card, what it looks like. The Omni card does look very similar to the reduced fare Omni card, which is through MTA, which you'll hear more about. And the difference between the two, if you see at the top, the RF that's circled, it's an Omni reduced fare card. Okay, it doesn't have a photo ID on it, and it says RF. For the accessorized Omni card will be PCA. See how it says PCA? If the person has a personal care attendant, but it will say accessorized on it. It says AAR ID. As you can see, first name, last name, AAR ID, and their photo will be on there. So that is the difference if people get that Omni card, okay? Okay, so they can opt in to add the money onto the card, like I said. Okay.
That's when I was hospitalized.
Accessorized customers, if asked, must show their Omni ID card to the driver. Okay, if using the Omni fare if it's deducted from the account at the end of the trip. Okay, so customers can confirm that on the end. And these vehicle AAR trips do not count toward the 7-day fare cap. Okay, the 4 free trips reset daily. Like I said, I'll go past that. And these are some of the ways that you can load up the card, as I said. And I just wanted to tell you a few things before I finish up. A record year for paratransit performance. We're very proud. In 2024, we met and exceeded our KPI targets. Growth in trips and ridership was unprecedented. Total trips and ridership increased 140,000 or 21.2% and 162,000 for 16.44% respectively. 9.2 million trips last year, 12.3 million riders. So our ridership did increase. 13.6% surge in active customers booking trips. Our average customer uses per month rose from 67,577 in 2023 to 76,792 in 2024. So we have increased our ridership. Total trips and ridership peaked in the last quarter with 840,832 trips and 1,213,220 riders. Vendors provided an 85% trip completion rate and less than 3% of no-shows by those providers each month. Primary 30-minute pickup on-time performance was over 96%, surpassing our target of 94%. 20-minute pickups on OTP was 92%, so within the 20-minute mark. Call centers average answer speed was 32 seconds, up from 14 seconds in 2023, and a percentage of answer calls, was 97%. So we just wanted to share a little bit of stats with you so you understand, what the numbers look like. And just wanted to share some of these resources. We do have, like I said, mta.info. We have our guide to Access-a-Ride that has all the policy information. We do share that with any new customers. When they come on board Access-a-Ride, they receive that in their packet, in their welcome packet. And our On the Move newsletter is online. It's a quarterly newsletter that comes out online, 3 times a year. And we do post that on our social media and on our website. And it's actually accessible version of that is on the website as well. All right, so I just wanted to, I'll stop sharing. I know that was a lot of information, very, very quick, but I wanted to make sure we got some information to you so you have something to ask any questions about. And I'm here for questions when anyone's done with their presentation.
Thank you. We're going to wait until.
Oh, they're going to present too. Okay.
Thanks very much, Tammy. That was a lot of information.
I know.
A lot of us didn't know, so that was good. And I'm going to pass it on now to Amy Brenner, who is a committee member. And it was really because of Amy, I've got to tell you all, that we wanted to update on Access-a-Ride, because she really brought it to my attention that there have been changes and we really don't know about them. So handing it over, go ahead, Amy.
Thank you, Shirley. And thank you, Tammy. Hey, Tammy, would you be able to share your presentation with us, or at least with the office, because, or we can post it on our website, just because I'm going to write up meeting notes and I'd like to include some of that.
Okay, so who's speaking? I'm sorry.
Amy Brannock. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Oh, my phone.
Or you can send it to me.
Don't do audio.
Grab my email and then I
Okay.
just pass it.
Sorry, my video is off by mistake.
But I'd
That's
love
okay.
to share it with the committee if that's a possibility.
Yeah, I'll chat with you about it offline. We definitely want to get some information to you, but the presentation changes so often. I'm not sure we
Okay.
would share it, because so many things change, but let's discuss it offline. I can get the information to you.
Yeah, and then I can
Okay.
just.
That would be
get
great.
The rest of the committee.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Go through it.
And thank you so much for coming. And it looks like a bunch of your colleagues are here too. And I want to say thank you to all of you. There's many of you, so thank you for coming too. We really appreciate you being here. So we're going to have two people who are very graciously not only agreed to participate tonight, but showed up in person. And we really appreciate that as well. And we're going to start, it's Claudia Malaya and Michael Ray. And we're going to start with Michael. You'll see in the chat that we have put, I just pasted in Michael's bio if you want to find out a little bit more about him. And I will be pasting Claudia's in a minute. There's also a link to an article that Claudia recently wrote about her experiences using Access-a-Ride and being a young person and trying to have a normal social life. Who has a normal social life? I don't know what normal is, but you know what I'm saying. And also, well, I'll get to the other link later. So I'm going to hand it over to Michael, who's going to talk for a few minutes, and he'll be available for questions.
Sure. Can you hear me okay? This is the mic? Okay. First, a little background. I don't know if it's in my bio. 11 years ago, I was basically fully paralyzed. I used a wheelchair for about a year. And now I'd like to say I'm less paralyzed. My hands don't really work. I wear ankle foot orthotics, so I don't trip. But I get around. And that was then. And now I'm a disability rights activist. I'm vice president of Disabled in Action of Greater New York. I'm also the chair of the Accessible Transit Advisory Committee for the MTA and other governmental agencies I work with. So first I want to say the MTA is huge. And when I say huge, it's as huge as 1/3 of the states. If it was a state, it would be like 16th biggest state or smallest state. It's bigger than 16 states as far as budget goes. So there's a lot of rules that Tammy talked about. And also, thanks, Tammy. If anyone has a problem with Accessoride, if you're lucky enough to talk to Tammy, she's either going to solve it or you're going to walk away feeling okay because it's a problem that can't be solved, but she's going to explain it very well. So a lot of people talk to me about taxi reimbursement and also the on-demand program, which are two separate things. So Tammy talked a little bit about taxi reimbursement, which is a great thing. And a lot of people use it to go within your own borough when you book your Accessoride trip, which you have to do before 5 p.m. the day before or anytime 2 days in advance. And you can check a little box that you'd say, I'd like to arrange my own transportation and use taxi reimbursement. And that will only work if you're traveling within one borough. It doesn't have to be your borough. It can just be a trip within a borough or a trip that starts or ends at a transit hub like the Port Authority, Penn Station, one of the airports or big places like that. The activist half of me, we're trying to expand it so that it can be used everywhere. I mean, no one understands what one borough means. I live in Park Slope and I live closer to where we are here in Greenwich Village than I do to where I grew up in Sheepshead Bay. It's not a money-saving thing. It's a little bit of a cap they want to keep on it because, well, we don't really know why they're capping it. And I don't think we'll find out, but it's slowly, we're trying to get it expanded. And it also works on your B trip. Now, normally you make 2 trips a day. An A trip is when you go somewhere from your house and a B trip is when you go home. Yesterday, I went to Staten Island and it was a long trip. I used Accessoride. I needed to be someplace at 8 a.m. I booked the trip 2 days in advance. I said my appointment time was 8 a.m. and I arrived at 7:04 a.m. in Staten Island. That's what happens. But I really didn't know when I wanted to go home. I mean, I was meeting people for an outdoor event and then we were going to go have breakfast. On my way to Staten Island, in the back of the car, I picked up my phone, called the regular Accessoride number and said, hey, I don't really know when I'm going to get to go home. This event is a weird event. Can I use taxi reimbursement to go home? And they said, certainly, sir. And they gave me a 9-digit number and I knew that I have a favorite place on my computer. I went to this, fillable PDF. I put in the number, I put in the starting address, the ending address, and then I uploaded my Uber receipt. And in about 3 months, I'm going to get a check in the mail. And it used to take, during COVID, it took 3 weeks. When they expanded it so you could do it online, it became more popular. But I keep track of the checks and I will get a check in the mail for the trip, the tip, minus $2.90, because that's what I would have paid anyway. And I hear people all the time telling me how stuck they are. Oh, my ride is not showing up, or my doctor's late, and they panic. And I'm like, just call them. I mean, a lot of people don't have the means to lay out the money. But I tell people, if you have the means, use a certain credit card, join Uber One and your rides are even discounted. It could work. That's taxi reimbursement. But the other program that I'm part of is a pilot program called On Demand. It's gone through a few phases, and for the past few years, it's been kind of consistent as I'm given $40, $60 vouchers are added to my Uber account every month. And I could use them for any kind of trip, anywhere I want to go within the 5 boroughs. If a trip costs $90, I'm going to have to pay Uber $30. If it costs $60, I have to pay, well, 4 is the co-payment instead of $290. So I got, just before I came here, I took a class. I'm a poll worker. I was on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. I walked out of the church, pressed the button, well, I went to the wrong address, but eventually I got here. That was on me. People ask me, how do I get in that? We don't know. It's not been, no new people have been added in a while. In the beginning, you got in it because you asked to be in it. Like I knew someone that was in it. He said, you got to do this, Michael. It's life-changing. And he was someone he was in the Paralympics. I'm an activist. A lot of the people who got in the beginning are people, movers and shakers who do a lot of stuff. And
When did it start?
Oh, when did it start? We measure time when COVID happened. So 2018 or so,
Okay.
maybe 2017. But I understand statistics, you know, when you give a pilot program just to the people who begged for it, you're not going to get good data. So then they started adding random people. And it turns out that many of the random people who were offered this didn't want to use it. A lot of Access-a-Ride users don't want to use Uber, don't want to pay $4 instead of $2.90, don't want to attach their credit card to their phone. So the frustrating thing is the people who want to use it can't get it. And many of the people who were offered it aren't using it. But that's, you know, the MTA kind of, they're studying it. And hopefully it doesn't go away because it is a pilot and it helps me get around. I don't know what Tammy said about it being a shared program. It does add to the frustration because if you use Uber share, your detours are gonna be minimal. You know, but when I've been in an Access-a-Ride where I wanted to go from Brooklyn to Staten Island, and the other person we had to pick up was in Manhattan. It was like, and that's just, you know, and the driver follows a manifest. He's like, well, that's what it says I gotta do. And if you're at the end of his shift and he got delayed at the beginning of their shift, your ride could be delayed. So it is frustrating. And it's frustrating because a lot of the Access-a-Ride users are not the smartphone users. So if you have a smartphone, you can track your ride. It works not as well as Uber or Lyft, but you could know when your ride's coming. If you're not a smartphone user, you might feel compelled to sit out in the rain waiting for your ride that is late. So it's frustrating. It's a generational thing, but it's tough too. But on the other hand, and I got to go back to this, it doesn't exist in this level in other cities or other places. Upstate, it doesn't exist. It only exists where there is mass transit that goes places that is inaccessible. If there's no mass transit, there's no Access-a-Ride. And where my mother lives in Florida, she has to call an ambulance to get anywhere. They don't have Access-a-Ride. Here, the government tells business how to make people happy. In other states, the business tells the government how they make money. So because of Access-a-Ride, I can leave a interactive, productive life. People can go to work if they can't walk up and down stairs. It doesn't exist in other places. So I don't want to bash it, but I'm an advocate. I always wanted to get better. Yeah.
Would you talk a little bit about the challenges of people who want to use Access-a-Ride because they have a regular job and they have to get,
Well,
day-to-day job?
If you're a 9-to-5er in an office and you're not the kind of person who wants to do taxi reimbursements, you're going to have problems getting home because, I mean, I used to work 9 to 5 and it's not 9 to 5. It's might be 9, but at 5, sometimes you go home, sometimes you work a little late, sometimes you want to go get a beer. And that's not always possible when you've prearranged your ride to come at 5. So it puts a career ceiling in front of people with disabilities. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say. A lot of people think Access-a-Ride is only for people who want to go to the doctor. Access-a-Ride is for going to the doctor. It's for, I took Access-a-Ride to the starting line of the New York City Marathon, and the driver actually turned around and said, "Am I taking you to the start of the marathon?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "That's the coolest thing I ever did." And I said, "That's the best answer you could have had." But you can take it. And my friend Jean Ryan, who's president of Disabled in Action, she says, you can use Access-a-Ride to go rob a bank. You know, if you can't drive and you can't climb stairs, Access-a-Ride is the way you get places. It's whatever people do. And if you take, when I'm on the subway, you look, anyone who's on the subway, you look around and you look at people, say, where are they going? And everyone's going to work or to school. That's where people go on the subway. But you look at an Access-a-Ride vehicle and you think everyone's going to the doctor, which is just a bad generalization. That people with disabilities aren't all sick, you know, just can't climb stairs sometimes. But so it would be, that's why we're trying to make, we need a lot more flexibility in, especially in the B trip. And it's hard when there's 10,000 rides a day. You know, there's a lot of people that got to be made happy.
One other thing we talked about on the phone, if you feel like talking about this, we're almost at the end of the 5 minutes, but how you talk about people not being able to climb stairs, but you talked for me about difficulty sometimes with, as great Uber is, those drivers are not trained.
Well, that's the big problem we're working on, that with Access-a-Ride and the dedicated vehicles, the white and blue and now yellow vehicles, when you get one of those, you kind of understand the guy might be late, but he's going to treat you with a little bit more respect, and he knows how to help someone with a disability. But with the broker services, they're licensed by the Taxi and Limousine Commission, and their requirements don't even require them to speak English. So you could be a cab driver and you take your test in whatever language you want, and you know, as long as you can follow a map. So there's no way for me to say I can't open your door, or I need help on the seatbelt. They're not expecting that. So it's very, it's nice that the TLC vehicles, the broker services vehicles, they're nimble. They're saving everyone money because they don't have to maintain this fleet of vans. They're just car service guys, Uber guys. You know, it's a car. Sometimes it's a Sienna with a ramp. But communication's a challenge.
You pointed out, you just mentioned it, you know, some people had trouble getting a seatbelt on and they could use some assistance. You also talked about people who have a hearing disability, and a lot of time Uber drivers say, hey, is that Michael? And
Yeah.
they can't hear you. So I just wanted you to elaborate.
Yeah, the Uber drivers,
going up and down stairs.
even if you know, in your app, you can text them and say, hey, I'm blind. But they don't read it.
Oh,
You know, or they don't care. I mean, I've texted drivers and say, I'll be on the other side of the street. And then they go there anyway. They spend 5 minutes driving. They're not looking at the messages you're sending them.
Right.
And there's no, for Access-a-Ride, I have criteria that I have a mobility impairment and I'm entitled to a PCA. But that and everyone has different criteria. But it doesn't go, the broker services vehicles don't always get that message. They might be, I mean, the MTA might send them the message, but they're not always reading it, or it's not even, they don't care. You know, but on the other hand, they want to pick you up as fast as they can and get you where you're going so they can make more money, which is a win-win for the passenger.
So that's a challenge that somehow, just wanted to bring up the pros and cons of all.
And you know, this is not a taxi and limousine meeting, but we talked to them and we're like, you know, it's great that you've created a career path for new Americans, but there has to be some communication need. And then there's the hack that a lot of Uber drivers had. Your driver is deaf. He's not deaf. He just doesn't speak a word of English. He's yakking away on his phone in his native language. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's they're doing that so they don't have to talk to you, but good for them, but
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of deaf drivers.
yeah, deaf drivers. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Anything else you wanted to?
I'm sure I'll think of something tonight, but
Okay, there'll be time.
we're gonna have a question and answer session.
May I ask you
Yeah.
a question?
sure.
Well, let's wait until,
Yeah.
we're waiting until the end.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up some of this.
Okay, let's give Claudia a chance.
Sure.
All right, and this Yeah, this is Claudia Malay, and I have,
Nicole had her hand up. I don't know if you want to take Nicole Barth's question.
I think we're gonna wait till Claudia is done and then
Okay,
they can ask all the speakers at once, whatever question.
gotcha.
Okay, it's Claudia Malaya. I put her bio in the chat and also a link to an article that she's.
That is not the right article, Amy. I'm so sorry. It's the one I texted you earlier, which is also in my first email.
Okay.
to you. Sorry.
I will put that, thank you, I'll put that in.
I apologize.
Sorry, so, no, it's okay.
We have two.
Anyway, so she's gonna read from an article and I will get that link in there in a minute. Thank you, everybody.
Claudia Malaya, I'm a writer and archivist, and I, like Michael, have an acquired disability. I've been disabled for 3.5 years, and so I've been using Access-Ride for the last 3 years. That's my primary means of getting around, and I am going to read from my recent article that was published in Urban Omnibus in February called Love and Longing in Paratransit. That's about using paratransit socially as a young person. But before I do that, I wanted to share a quick anecdote just on the subject of using it to get to and from work, which is like earlier today, I was booking my trip and communicating with my boss, whose apartment I work out of, who I've worked there for like a year, so I've used Access-Ride the entire time I've been working there. And I wanted to come at a slightly later time, which my boss doesn't mind. And I was texting her like, can I come at 10? She's like, yes, but I have a call at 10:30 that cannot be interrupted, like knowing that there's a chance I'll be half an hour late. So I had to kind of game the system and like book to actually get there at 9:45 or whatever, which will probably get me there at 9:15, but such is life. I always get there. I've never missed a day of work because of Access-Ride. I'm just often late or early. It's okay. And I'll read a few excerpts from my article. Paratransit can be an isolating way to travel, so I bring non-disabled friends along into my world. Sometimes I meet interesting people at parties or bars and spontaneously invite them to take Access-Ride home with me. Sometimes I declare that I'm traveling with a personal care attendant when I schedule the ride to sneak in a friend. Last January, my friend Marina came with me to Brighton Beach. The driver took a phone call in another language. He apologized, explaining that it was a friend from his city that he hadn't heard from in a while. And Marina asked Tbilisi, recognizing the Georgian he spoke. The driver excitedly chatted about Georgians in Brighton. When we got out, he insisted on giving me free fare. When I was going to the Rite of Spring at the Armory, a performance I'd wanted to see for a decade. Access-Ride was so late that I arrived sobbing profusely, worried that I'd missed it. I missed the cake at my best friend's birthday after getting a text that my car had arrived on time, only to find out that it was not there. I dream of a paratransit system that allows for at-will trips, that respects people's time and agency, and recognizes the whole personhood of its users. But I've also come to see it as a space where I talk to my drivers, fellow passengers, and the friends I bring along with me. I've ridden with college professors on their way to class, young adults dressed up for a night out, and older adults on their way to senior centers. Last winter, I commiserated with a woman on my ride that all the trees had lost their leaves. She pointed out something I've never noticed before, that we could see all the birds' nests in the empty branches. I never see a bare tree without thinking of that now. So I just wanted to capture that, like, using Access-Ride as, you know, a woman in my 20s, often going out or doing other things, like, it can be a frustrating experience that negatively affects my social life, but it is also like a social experience and I'm with other people. That can be really nice.
Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, so
many
now questions, Janine, and then.
Hi,
Lucille.
I have questions sort of about how you pay and how it works. I guess the first is sort of what percentage of Access-Ride users, or at least regular users, have smartphones? Do you have that information, Tammy? But
Sorry, I didn't realize you were speaking with me.
yeah, yeah.
I don't have those numbers, but I can get the information for you.
Well, that just follows my next questions, which, you know, I can tap my phone when I take a ride in the subway and it's linked to a credit card. Can you link the Access-Ride Omni to a credit card as well?
Yes, that is how you would link it. It would have to be a credit card.
Yeah,
Um,
got it. And then the on-demand pilot sounds really cool, but it's a pilot, but it's been going on since 2017, 2018. why has it not been made a permanent program? Why is it still pilot status 7 or 8 years later?
Yeah, so it started off as a pilot because we're testing it out, right? And Michael did a great job explaining, exactly how it started out, and definitely, how we have it now. We do send out surveys to the customers who are who are participating currently and have been through the 3 phases that it's been through already.
What will it take to make it for everyone? Make it move out of pilot and into just part of the Access-a-Ride program?
So my understanding is, it comes down to money, trying to figure out how to make it work for everyone. It can be, costly to try to run this program for all of our 180,000 customers. Not all 180,000 customers will use it, as like Michael said. Some customers, it's not the right, fit for them. But, I don't know the interworkings of why it's not expanded yet. But I know, the purpose right now is to try to make sure we keep it going. That is the goal. People do want it, so we're going to do what we can, but, it's not, I don't know the answer to why it's not
I
expanded.
think I've heard slices of answers. One, I hope we're not rocking the boat and that it's gonna end, because it is a pilot, but it costs somewhat more, and not always any more than a regular Access-a-Ride trip to take an Uber. But the people who are using the pilot are using it a lot more than they would regular Access-a-Ride.
Correct.
Like, it's towards the end of the month and I got 4 rides left. I've made 36 rides this month. Honestly, if I had to use regular Access-a-Ride, I would not make nearly that many trips. If I had to make my plan before 5 the day before.
Got it.
So it's not that it costs more, it's that it's used more,
Got it.
which means it's a victim of its own success.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
it's-
I wasn't saying it would cost more. I was saying overall it would cost, we have to.
It would
figure out
cost
how
more
make
to
it
the MTA,
for
Yeah.
because
everyone.
people would
Yes.
be riding around all the
Right.
time.
Okay.
Correct,
And
correct.
I'm still on the money issue. Why does taxi reimbursement take so long? 3 months? I mean, that's gonna be it for people who have limited incomes, paying upfront and then getting reimbursed 3 months later. They're just not gonna do
It
it.
used to be you got paid back before your credit card bill was due, like in that same
Yeah,
float. And now you're really laying out money.
yeah. And do you get
Yeah.
it's automatic? What's going on? Like,
Oh, it's a paper check that it comes folded up. It's horrible.
I guess that my questions are like all about technology. Like, how do you move to, a check, an online check that gets mailed, or not even a check, just.
Well, as an advocate, that's one of the things we're yelling at the MTA
Yeah.
about. It's
Okay,
like I do other stuff and I get reimbursed through bill.com,
yeah.
which is a common reimbursement. And I got to know, okay, we got your paperwork, we approved your paperwork, we're sending you the money, you got your money. It's all in there in my portal.
Yeah, I mean, that's how, we pay for all the other things we pay for through the MTA. It goes automatically billing through.
Yeah.
All sorts of other things. So my last money question is really about the MTA app. I hear that, and obviously that's why I was asking about smartphones, because you said you get a text, it's your driver's license. But is there, for people who do have smartphones, does the MTA app operate like a Lyft or an Uber app where you can see how far your car is away, or it'll update the status, or anything like that? Will it include a map? And what are the plans to make the app state of the art and comparable to Uber and Lyft?
So the app has gone through many phases so far. We started off not having a lot of the things that you're saying, but yes, the app currently does do all those things. You can book your trip, you can track your trip, you can see it on the map, it gets alerts, it gives you your vehicle information, it tells you how many minutes away, and then it recalculates if it gets stuck in traffic. So I mean, the app definitely does all the things that you're saying. It tells you all the information about your trip. You can go back and see your past trips.
Well, I guess I'm just confused because you said you got a text that it was late,
Oh,
And then you
yes,
went there. So what's the disconnect?
I don't really know where the texts come from, but
The text,
in addition to the app, I receive texts saying when I have cars dispatched and when they have arrived, which neither of
Yes.
those things are necessarily accurate, but
that's a different system.
It's
So
accurate.
more so.
yeah, the app is one thing, then there's the IVR system, which actually sends out a text to customers saying the vehicle's on the way. It'll tell you the vehicle's 5 minutes away. Yes, it is correct. They are correct. It does recalculate because technology is what it is. You know, you may get from the satellite, it might say now it's 5 minutes. And then, you know, there'll be some change where there's traffic. You know, we all live in New York. There's a lot of different reasons why it could
Yeah.
be delayed, and then you get another update, or the vehicle may change for some reason, and you get that new vehicle information. So the IVR system is really an alert system to tell you that, you know, here's your vehicle information, your vehicle's coming at such and such time, and then
I
it'll
guess,
give you
can
an
the
update.
IVR be linked with the app similar to rideshare apps? Because then you don't get two different kinds of information about the same ride. Then that would be I'm not a technologist, I just know what kind of benefits I get from other apps. And my
Yeah.
last question is, in your data, you said you had 85% completion. Does that mean 15% of the rides are not completed? What does that actually mean?
Let me open my,
That was in the slides. It was in the
Presentation, right.
second column, I think first or second bullet on the right.
I have to open this back up. Hold on, because y'all can't see what you see. Hold on. You can go to another question while I look it up if you want.
Done.
One of the classic problems that's people complain about a lot that isn't so, it's atypical, is that when you're waiting for your ride in front of your house, and there's nothing going on in the street, and suddenly you get notified that you weren't there and the car left. And like, no one called me, I didn't see a car. I'm not gonna say it happens all the time, but it happens enough that that's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Because it happens sometimes, and that's all people talk about.
This with the Uber or the Access-a-Ride?
No, Uber would never do that because they don't pick you up, they don't get paid.
I
The
mean,
Access-a-Ride guy, he's getting paid by the hour, and maybe he wants to take a break, maybe he didn't feel like swinging by your way, you never know.
it's
But
Access.
it happened once or twice to me that, what do you mean I wasn't there? I mean, I'm
here.
here, I'm looking out,
And then when that happens, do you go onto the app and?
well, then I would call and say, hey, I was there, and I'd get taxi reimbursement. But that whole time I was sitting on a bench in front of a doctor's office, you know, looking.
Did you say 85%? Were you talking about the vendors? The vendors?
No, it just said 85% completion rate. And it was the page with all the.
80,
Probably 85% on time.
85% on time, I was saying. Well, no, you took the,
No, that was 94%.
Yeah, it's
It
even,
was,
yeah, primary, the 30-minute pickup on time performance was over 96%.
no,
and
but
it's-
there's an 85% above that on the same page and a bullet on the right.
It says the vendors provided 85% trip completion.
What does that mean?
That means they completed 85% of their trips were completed on time.
So that means 15% are completed late or not completed at all? I'm just trying to understand what that means.
Less than 3% of no-shows by those providers. So yeah, that means that they completed 85% of their trips. There have been other trips that maybe they weren't completed for Michael and Claudia was saying there may be a trip where it got canceled for some reason, or the vehicle didn't meet up with the customer for some reason, or it could be many reasons why the trip didn't get completed. They could have had vehicle trouble. It could have been many different reasons, but 85%, for our brokers, that is, a high number, and we've been staying on top of them to even get it to that point. So, we've been working very hard with them to make sure that they're performing these trips, working out different details, getting rid of any brokers that are not performing these trips. So, as we got up to, 85% right now, we know it's not perfect. We're definitely looking to stay on top of them and get improvements in this area. But as of right now, as of 2024, that is the stat for 2024.
Thank you.
Okay, and so Rocio had a couple of questions.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was excellent, and I love your stories.
Thank you.
I really do, and I have a story to tell about one of my customers. I'm in the restaurant business, but that will be after my questions.
Okay.
So you were speaking about on-time performance, and I think I read something about 94%. Could you please go back, because now I'm a little bit confused regarding what I think I read, 94% of the pickups are on time? Or what
Yeah,
is-
so we in our guide and what the 30-minute pickup time, which is the time frame that we ask customers to basically wait for the 30 minutes for our vehicles to arrive, right? Because our customers are in one place. Our drivers are driving all over the city. So the 30-minute wait window is the time frame that we set, for customers to be picked up. They must pick up the customer within the 30 minutes or 35 minutes. We give them the 5 minutes to be outside. Excuse me, it's probably not 5, it's really 7 minutes at this point, 10 minutes, but it's really supposed to be that we have to allow customers to get picked up within the 30 minutes. But our goal is to surpass that and pick up by 20 minutes on time pickup. So we're setting our own goal for 20-minute pickup OTP, which we did achieve at 92%. But the 30-minute wait window, which we ask customers, that percentage was over 96% when it's surpassing our target of 94. So we set our own goal for 94%, was what I was saying.
It
We
seems,
surpassed that in 2024 to meet 96%.
it seems it's a long time for me. If I'm thinking about someone who's going to be sitting outside in the rain, someone who may not have, or in the winter in the snow, someone who may not have access to a cell phone, someone who may not be knowledgeable to deal with the app and can't see or can't hear well, and so many complications regarding that. And then I can tell you the reason why I'm so concerned about this particular 30-minute is because we have a customer in my restaurant that uses Access a Ride at least twice a week. He comes to my restaurant because he's 98 years old. He uses a walker, plays a clarinet and sings. He's a very famous guy that comes to my restaurant. And it's so sad for me to see him waiting outside in the snow. And I try to tell him, please wait until when we see the Access a Ride, we'll bring you out. But he insists he doesn't want to miss it. He doesn't want to be called on that he wasn't there when Access a Ride comes. But that's just a comment that I wish would improve immensely because
Yes. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why we're working on it. So we put that goal on ourselves. The 30-minute was, the standard wait time. And we're now working toward it being 20 minutes and hopefully even less time than that. But, I think it's important to understand we do have over 180,000 customers, right? And we're going from door to door. We're dropping everybody from pickup point to destination all over the city. So 30 minutes, even though it sounds like a lot of time, and I understand everybody wants to be picked up as soon as their appointment, but there's a lot of different variables that can happen in the city. We have all kinds of street closures. We have, the UN General Assembly, we have construction, we have roads, all kinds of things are going on. And, we can't guarantee every trip is going to be, picked up on time. We would love to be able to do it, and that's, like I said, that's why we're working to make that better. And one of the things we didn't mention was the scheduling system. So we understand the scheduling system that we've been using is outdated. We definitely as we were talking about technology with Janine, that's something that we're working on launching, hopefully by the end of this year. This is we've been talking about this for some time, this scheduling engine. We are aware that it's out of date and it needs to be updated. And so that will help with the shared ride. That will help with, just different problems with traveling around the city and understanding that one customer may be picked up, 2 blocks away instead of going 5 blocks down and coming back to get that same person 2 blocks away. That might not make sense. That doesn't make sense. So we know that, and the scheduling engine does need to be updated. And so that is one of the things that we are working on.
Then I have a couple more questions, please. What type of documentation do the applicants need in order to apply? You mentioned documentation, but you didn't say what it was.
Yeah, so for Access-a-Ride, anyone can apply for Access-a-Ride. There's no age requirement, no income requirement. Documentation is voluntary, really. But it is, when you have documentation to support what your disability is and how you get around, that, you want to have as much as possible to support your case, right? And so everyone's disability is different. Everyone's needs are different. And so our eligibility unit will, decide, once the documentation is submitted, it's any documentation that will support whatever your disability is that keeps you from taking the bus and subway. So that's really what, we tell any applicants. And so
this is not based on financial need.
Absolutely not.
Okay, and
It's
then
public transportation, so it's
No money
available for
question.
everybody.
what percentage of the taxis are equipped with wheelchair access?
I'm just writing it down. I don't have that number.
Oh, I do.
Okay.
Next week, it will be exactly 50%,
Oh.
because I was in the lawsuit.
Thank you, Michael.
I was at, David Doe invited a few of us. There's going to be a ceremony when the 50% mark is reached. It's the
These are
yellow.
waves. The waves?
Yeah, the yellow cabs are at 50%.
They're actually reaching that?
It happened.
Oh, wow.
Or next week is the official announcement.
I thought it was way lower than that.
So do you have any more? Because Amy has a question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll make it quick because I know we have some other people. So the reason what started this whole thing is that I was reading that with congestion pricing, since that's we're in the congestion pricing zone, that Access-a-Ride is moving much faster, and that was helping me meet some of your times. That's what started with it. And then I started talking to Michael and Claudia, and I learned so much, and it became a much bigger topic. So I want to ask you, what is the impact of congestion pricing on Access-a-Ride, performance?
Again, I do not have these numbers. I do not. The way Michael is going, Michael may be able to tell me better than
Well,
I
it's a number that I heard. I don't know it in my head. But driving speed in the congestion zone has increased.
Right.
Buses are moving faster.
Yeah.
People who have to drive in are facing less traffic.
I think I read about it in Gotham. I can look it up.
Yeah.
But that's what as soon as where they got that
I just want them to expand the zone to include Brooklyn.
number.
Oh.
Well, we can't help you there.
No.
Sorry, it's out of our.
Oh, well,
district.
you see?
And then the other question I had for you
Just a
was,
comment.
when we spoke on the phone, you talked a little more detail about as great as Access-a-Ride is, and it is, and I'm sure that, Tammy's great, I'm sure team's great. You felt that it was the inherent inefficiencies, et cetera, of the system really kept a lot of people who could be very productive and work
Well,
from. So I know you get there on time, but what is it about it that keeps a lot of people who?
a lot of people who can't climb stairs don't want to use Access-a-Ride either, because of, they're hearing that you have to be standing outside in the snow. They don't want to apply for something. I mean, it is a little complicated. It has to be complicated. Otherwise, there's going to be too many people doing it that don't deserve it. But people they stay home, leaving isolated, unproductive lives because the subways and buses don't work for them. And Access-a-Ride isn't really working either because, 9 to 5 doesn't, you've missed birthday cake. You miss things when you have to have a prearranged ride.
So would you say then that this is beyond Access-a-Ride problem? This is really the bus and subway problem?
Yeah, I mean, we right now, because of lawsuits, 95% of the subways will have elevators by the year 2055.
55.
2055. Now,
I'll wait.
you know what?
Years.
An elevator doesn't help me in every station. I can walk up and down stairs, but I need a seat. So accessibility isn't the same for everybody.
Right.
I don't look like I need a seat, but I can't hold on to the pole and I have terrible balance, but I get on the train and I'm like, okay, I'll put my elbow around the pole and hope something bad doesn't happen.
Or somebody nice gives you a seat.
But they don't even notice that I need a seat
Yeah.
because I'm big guy that doesn't look.
Okay,
So
Use a
what,
cane.
okay.
so what I guess what I'm trying to get at is the bigger problem for people who are disabled and not being productive, if they wanted to be, that is really the subways and the buses is not as much an accessoride thing. Because accessoride will never,
The accessory will never be perfect.
it can't replace.
No, I mean,
So-
I use Uber 40 times a month. But I spend a lot of time stuck in traffic. I'd rather take the train than Uber half the time.
Okay, all right, so I just wanted to,
Yeah, and
I
also,
think we
this is,
gotta move on to whoever else has a
Yeah.
question, because we have somebody else
Yeah.
waiting. Stella,
Yeah, I have a question about the application process, and just as people who have gone through it, where do you see that there are barriers?
Oh,
Maybe
I-
of a variety.
I can tell you, so 11 years ago, I stumbled into my doctor's office. I got like a terrible diagnosis, emergency room, intensive care unit, 4 months in the hospital. The crappiest day of my life was the day I applied for Accessoride. To be told you'll be fine in a year and power wheelchairs, but the indignity of being in that building, of being pushed around in a wheelchair in a building that was too small for me, where there was no place for me to be, that was it. That was the bottom. And I just had they tell you how happy you should be. It's a free ride. We'll pick you up and bring you back for free. And they picked me up so early that my evaluation was done before I really thought I even had to be there. I had to wait 2 hours for my ride home. And I called them. I'm like, I'm ready to go home. And they were like, this is Accessoride. I had to stand out there in my old neighborhood and just wait. It was bad.
brutal.
I'm wondering,
And more questions?
it's just to follow up on that. What recommendations would you make?
Well,
for accessorized-
the paperwork I had from multiple doctors was the same paperwork I was using to apply for Social Security disability. I had this pile. I don't know. I mean, going in there was just adding insult to injury. And I know a lot of people who have lost limbs and have to go back every 5 years. Like, hey,
It's gonna grow back.
it didn't grow back.
So televisits?
Televisits might be good.
So what is your exact question about the eligibility
No, it's not.
process of the paperwork?
I just want to know how the application process could be improved so that it's more accessible.
Oh, I see.
Getting to televisits or
The
maybe.
televisit, well, it was 2014. We didn't have televisits back then. But here, we're doing this, a hybrid meeting.
My only addition is that there's a certain level of almost sort of theater to it that you go in and they're pretend to enter a bus, so we'll know that you can't enter a bus. Which I can walk fairly well. I can enter a kneeling bus, and of course, they only have a bus with stairs, which I just in my own neighborhood would not choose to use. So you sort of have to perform ineptitude in a way.
And
It's not a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, but I think they're really kind of very basic, and I think they're mostly for Tammy?
I'm here. I'm here.
Tammy, you said one thing about the taxis that do accessoride, that they had certain identities, did you say? That there was something that identified them? And they-
The logo, the Accessoride,
So there
logo,
is-
the Speedy
okay.
logo.
Right,
That-
okay.
That's
There-
just so that everyone knows that they're not, regular taxis or regular ambulettes. They are part of Accessoride,
They will have
customers.
a logo. Okay.
That helps a lot because
Yeah,
when you call Accessoride to get picked up from a Met game, you can go to a better place to be picked up than where everyone else is
I'm going to
getting a
move on
taxi.
with my question.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And-
And we do have designated stops as
I
well.
guess I'm kind of vague on. We're talking about after 5 PM, everything stops? Or does it operate at all in the
We're
evening?
we operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Operate 24 hours, so it's a matter of you have to call before 5 PM.
Correct. You have to book your trip the day before or 2 days before 5
hours.
o'clock.
Call before 5 PM.
Mhm.
Okay, and I think I had one more. Oh, yeah, I think this is kind of an important one. So you said your numbers are growing. And I just wonder, how do you get the word out? You showed us a couple of resources, but I mean, do you do an actual public relations campaign? How do you get to folks that really need Accessoride that may not know all those iterations that might be of help?
Well, we do lots of presentations. We have a lot of community partnerships. We do presentations all the time, virtual and in person. We're visible at board meetings and public meetings. We do these things all the time. We go to fairs. We're out there. We are talking to people. People know we're here. Maybe some people don't, but anybody that contacts us, if they, say they're interested in a presentation or they want more information, we can mail information out to them. We have our social media. For people who are not online, we definitely are out there in the field, getting the word out about Accessoride. So, I mean, we're there. I'm not sure
Okay, thanks.
who's not knowing about us. but
Anybody else
we're out.
have any question? Okay, we got Katie Bordenaro, who's a
And
member of the
Katie's,
board.
right.
Go to it, Katie. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you so much for this presentation. I have a couple of very, just process questions. First of all, where is the center that you go to in Manhattan to apply for Accessoride? What's the
Okay, so
address?
I just want to be clear. So you can't go to apply. You have to call our eligibility unit, or you can fill out that inquiry form, like I said. And then once you provide the information, they will mail out the information to you, and they will assign you to a location, normally in your borough, unless they have too many appointments, then they may assign you to another borough. But you can also, request a different borough if that doesn't work for you. But for the Manhattan
only-
location.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, for the Manhattan location, it's at 3 Stone Street in Manhattan. It's
Okay.
the Omni Rehab in Manhattan.
Yeah, I know where that is. Thank you.
Okay.
And then what if you are a senior citizen and use a senior citizen Omni card? How does that affect the price of?
Oh, you're talking about the reduced fare Omni?
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
that would
yeah,
be,
yeah.
you're definitely gonna hear another presentation from Ruby on that. But you can have reduced fare Metro card on the subway and bus, and you can also have the Accessoride Omni card as well. Because if you are eligible to get the 4 free rides on the bus and subway, you will have those 4. And if you go above those 4, you can use your reduced fare on the subway and bus. So you can have both.
But I have a senior citizen. I have a senior citizen card.
Is that
I
something
don't know.
different from reduced fare? Is it
Well,
fair
There's
fares?
no limit. There's no like 4. There's
Is
no
it under
limit
fair
of 4.
fares?
No,
I don't understand this.
so it's reduced.
Your citizen card.
No, so it's
Sorry?
reduced fare. So for reduced fare cards, you do get your 135 that it's per ride. I think what's different is that if you apply for Accessoride, it's different than the reduced fare MetroCard that senior citizens would have. So for Accessoride, what would happen is that when folks apply for that and they get accepted for Accessoride, they have to pay $290 per ride that they do Accessoride. In addition, they get 4 free MetroCard, like 4 free subway or bus trips that they can use. So that's where that goes. So once they complete those 4 trips, anything else that they do afterwards, it would be 135 if they're
Okay.
a senior citizen.
Okay.
But for
Thank-
any accessory ride, it would be always $2.90.
And then Nicole?
Well, Nicole, right?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. My question is for Ms. Francisque. I was just wondering, I work for the council member and I'm a liaison. Sorry.
Which council member?
My Zoom, so I'm trying to get in here. There we are. With Councilmember Eric Botcher. I'm the CB2 liaison. So I just have to say I've had nothing but great experiences with your folks over at Accessoride when I have to navigate stuff for the constituents. But I did have one constituent who pretty much, he went to Brooklyn on a regular basis. And he used to tell me sometimes he would have to share a ride and he would have to go to the Bronx first. And then he would be dropped off next, or
Right.
vice versa. Like he was always like, oh, thank God I'm the first drop off. So sometimes he was just in that car forever. I think he used to go out and visit his wife at a nursing home out in Brooklyn, and he lives in Manhattan. Why is that? Why does that happen?
So this is part of what I was mentioning earlier about the appointment time and departure time. And I was trying to get through it because I knew I had a lot to share and I knew there were other presenters. So I apologize for going through it so quickly because that probably would have answered your question as well. But sometimes it depends. If a person makes their trip, there's 2 things. If a person makes their trip as a pickup time, they are subject to ride time guidelines, which could, for instance, if a person is on the vehicle, if the person is going a certain amount of miles, they can be on the vehicle for a longer period of time, depending on what the mileage is. So that's subject to the pickup time. But if they book their trip as an appointment time, and if he said, I need to be at the rehab center to see my wife, at 10 o'clock, then he may do an appointment time for 9:30. That may adjust the time where he would not go to the Bronx because his drop-off time would be before the person going to the Bronx. So it depends on how you're setting it up and how many people book trips going in that direction. It depends on a lot of different variables, the way the scheduling system puts it together. But it's always best to do your trip as an appointment time if you can, because it can lessen the time that you're on the vehicle.
Okay, thank you for that. He's really not too savvy. He doesn't use the smartphone. He has trouble dealing with all of this stuff, but I will bring that up with him and thank you for that.
And I'm happy to send one of our guides to you as well, just so you can have the policy. It's our guide to Accessoride. It does have a lot of information in there and also talks about the ride time guidelines, and that could give you some information as well.
Well, I love guides. And I love information. So send it on over. I'll put my email in the chat.
Okay, please do.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, anybody else? Dan, is there anybody that's waiting to ask a question, make a comment?
I see no other hands up.
Right, so then we are on to our next topic, which is a request by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for a revocable consent to construct underground anchors in the roadway and the sidewalk for the Aquafence removable flood protection, which is a flood wall, to be located at 578 Broome Street and Vestry Street to protect entry and exit of the Holland Tunnel. And first of all, thank you so much to our Port Authority folks for waiting. And who's going to be doing the presentation?
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Lee from the Port Authority. It's good to be with you guys tonight.
Oh, hi, Chris.
How are you? Nice to see you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yep,
Michael.
good to see
Hello,
you.
Nicole.
Thank you, gang.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and will you be doing the presentation?
I'll start it off, but we have a couple of members of the Port Authority on the line as well. We have Ricky Ramirez, who's the general manager of the Holland Tunnel.
Hi,
We have
Ricky.
Ike Oradu, who's the senior project manager on this project, and Tangela Rahman, who's the senior external relations manager with the Port Authority.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming, and again, thanks so much for waiting. Okay.
We're happy to learn about Access-a-Ride tonight.
Yes,
While we wait. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Great.
So like you said, Shirley, tonight we're just talking about an aspect of our Holland Tunnel program, which was mitigation and repair of the tunnel from some of the damage that Superstorm Sandy caused. We've been doing this for a couple of years. We've come before the board a couple of times to talk about it. But specifically, we're here tonight to talk about a revocable consent application we have with New York City DOT. And it's for, installing anchors into the street on Broome and also on Canal. And what they do is they're going to be holding kind of the aqua fence in place, but I'll let Ricky talk to the specifics. I'm just going to give some of the background about this overall project, which you know about, but I'm just going to go through it really, really quick. Like I said, this aqua fence system is part of our Holland Tunnel Sandy repair and resiliency project. This project includes a number of repairs to the inside of the tunnel, but this is a key part of the Port Authority's emergency preparedness plan. It's designed to protect the Holland Tunnel from a storm surge like we saw during Sandy. And you can see right here, this is an image of what it would look like or what it will look like when it's fully installed. That's Canal Street right there. But we're also going to do it on Broome Street as well. And so, that's the gist of it. I'm going to kick it to Ricky right now, who's going to talk about where the locations are and exactly what it's going to look like. Ricky?
Thanks, Chris. And good evening, everybody. My name is Ricky Ramirez. As Chris said, I'm the general manager at the Holland Tunnel. Thanks for having us tonight to explain this project. So as we started, we did apply with New York City DOT for revocable consent to install these anchor sleeves in the sidewalk and in the street along certain sections you'll see on the next slide for the map locations. So what you see there towards the right side in the middle is a section view, which is basically the installation of the sleeve to receive the anchor or the bolt that would hold those aqua fence panels in place should we need to deploy them. What you see in the picture on the right side, so that you understand, it's basically it's flush surface. So it's the finished surface. The anchor gets installed, it gets capped, and there's no trip hazards. It's just along the line where we would deploy those barriers when needed. So that installation of those anchor sleeves along that path basically makes it ready now for installation at the time it's needed. Next slide. So to kind of put this into perspective in terms of the locations, there's two on the New York side. One, if you look on the left side, it's near the entrance to the New Jersey bound tunnel. That's the Broome Street location. And then the other location, which is pending with the revocable consent process, an application that we applied for, is down along the sidewalk, the southern sidewalk at Canal Street. On the right side, that's a section from the drawings, and you'll see in the next slide a zoomed in area to the Broome Street location within this Community Board 2 district. So on the left, that's the zoomed in area. The anchors are already installed in that section. On the right side, you see a rendering of what the panels would look like in a deployed state. And if you could tell, I'm not sure if you could tell from the perspective of the picture, but it is recessed in towards the entrance of the tunnel. So not along the sidewalk itself, but close enough to the property lines. So the anchors are already in the ground, and that image on the right represents what the deployed aquafence barriers would look like. Again, so they would be anchored into the ground. All right, this section is complete. Okay, you can move to the next slide, Chris, please. Thank you. Okay, and this is the same image that Chris showed earlier. So the southern sidewalk on Canal Street between Hudson Street and Varick Street, that's the section that's pending the revocable consent and approval from New York City DOT. So in terms of the program, as mentioned earlier, this has been going on since 2020. So the New York bound tube, as you know, has been completed. All 4 of the portal of the 2 tubes, the entrance and exit of both tubes, so 4 of the flexible membrane barriers are already installed. We still have the New Jersey bound construction that's ongoing. That'll be completed this year. We still have the overnight closures to New Jersey are still in effect. All right, we want to make sure that everyone understands that once that construction is concluded and we're no longer closing the tunnel nightly for this work, with the installation of those flexible membrane barriers at the portals, they do require inspection and maintenance on an annual basis. So going forward, we'll be planning, once we have those maintenance contracts in place for that to happen, we'll be closing each tube one night to do inspection and maintenance on those flexible barriers. But in typical fashion, we will always make the outreach and communications about those closures well in advance. And then the installation of the anchors. So 95% of the anchors for the entire system, because it's on both sides of the facility in New York and in New Jersey, those have been already installed. And this remaining section on the southern sidewalk canal between Hudson and Varick is what's pending. And we're waiting on the revocable consent and permits in order to be able to do those.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we got some questions. Amy has a question. I have some.
Yes, thank you so much for coming tonight. How long will these, the lifespan of these flexible barriers, how long do you think it will be operable? 10 years, 20 years, 100 years?
The barriers themselves?
Yes, this infrastructure that you built.
So these are stored in crates. And so really, unless they're used, there's no expectation that they'll have any problems with them.
And then the stuff that's built into the ground, how long does that expect to be? Tiles in the tunnels have to be replaced. You must have had to figure out like a lifetime for the infrastructure.
So the anchors that are installed in the ground, they'll get inspected annually also in advance of the seasons. And so they'll be replaced as needed, but they're really, it's a simple grouting and hardware for the element. So, they'll be replaced as needed annually, but there's not an expectation of very much replacement on those. We've had them in New Jersey for a number of years now, and haven't seen any issues with them. The caps, to make sure that they're flush with the surface, those get exercised, and replaced as needed, but we haven't seen any deterioration.
And then the height of the barriers, didn't look that high to me. How did you come up with how high they should be? Well, is it Hurricane Sandy height? Is it 1,000-year flood height? I mean, just curious.
Yeah, those are for the 500-year flood level. Not explain what that means, but I know initially that was the standard initial flood mitigation that we had installed right after Sandy was at the 100-year flood level. So those are designed to the 500-year flood level.
How high are they?
Anybody else have any questions? Janine, did you?
And I'm
Yes.
happy to follow up and get the actual specs, like Ricky said, like it's a 500-year threshold, but we'll get the number and we could send it to you.
I'm just like, the news announces, you find out today that there's going to be a superstorm, Chris, tomorrow. How quickly can you install these?
So the plan with these is to start 78 hours out, and it's done in phases, where the early phases include a lot of the transporting the crates to the locations, because as you were talking earlier about how tall are these? There's different sections, so there's custom panels for the specific locations. And the two phases that we work within is that we're open, the tunnel is still open and operating, so we're not impacting the ability to be open and operating. And then in the final phases, the second phase, as we button everything up, that's when we're impacting the ability to have an open tunnel.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I have a couple of questions. I just want to clarify exactly what the project area is. It was a little confusing because your application talked about Broome and Vestry Street. That's the wider project, right? Broome and Vestry.
The Broome, this location here is Broome Street. So this is a small section. The application is more particular to the Canal Street. That's the longer section. So it's on the southern sidewalk of Canal, between Hudson Street and Varick Street.
Right. Oh, okay, fine. So that's when we're addressing this, we're simply addressing that little piece for the revocable consent, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak to your requirement on that, but yeah, that's the within Community Board 2, as I understand it, north of Canal Street, it's that section right there that is showing on the.
Okay, right, because we have to know what we need to address it to. And and it's just those anchors that we're concerned about. Okay. So to follow up on what Janine said, what is your timetable? When do you want to start doing this installation on that southern side of Canal Street? And how long will it take?
So we're waiting on the permit process, and then the contractor, of course, needs permits for when they're going to do work. So we're thinking it's about 5 days of work. It's night work to install those anchors along the sidewalk there and around. We have a building at the corner of at 4 Vestry Street. So between connecting installing those anchors along that connection point, we think it'll be about 5 to 7 days. Again, all night work with a closure of the right lane, eastbound lane on Canal Street while they do that work at night.
With the closure of the right lane. Okay, and you would have to wait to see when you got the actual permit to estimate when you would be beginning this particular work, you're saying. So do you expect that to be soon? I mean, once our full board meeting is June, the next full board meeting, June 18th. So it would have to be after our decision, correct? And Community Board 1, I guess, or whatever.
Throwing advisors.
I mean, we'd like to go as soon as we get permission from the New York City DOT, which is using you and the Community Board 1 as part of the public outreach process. But yeah, as soon as we get permission from this DOT to move ahead, we will.
Right. Okay, and it won't take all that long. Okay, so my last question is what work will be entailed when you're doing it? I mean, digging up the street, I guess, or the sidewalk. Can you elaborate on that?
You
I mean,
know, it's
how
not,
much will it really impact us?
yeah, it's not an intrusive, so they'll be drilling into the ground. And then they'll be filling it with a grout, a special grout for this application, and inserting the anchor sleeve. And then they get capped. So that it'll just be I guess a little screw at the top that is flat and maintains the surface flush. So it's a simple application. The drill, install the grout, insert the grout, install the anchor, and then cap it to keep it flat to the surface.
Right. And you talked about it being on the sidewalk, so does that mean people would not be able to be on that sidewalk at that time, right?
Yeah, just that's why it's overnight work. So when we've done work similar in this space in the past, there is maintenance of traffic that gets approved by OCMC as part of the permit process. And so I know there is a pedestrian detour that's implemented during those overnight closures, and the right lane coming up Canal Street eastbound is also closed adjacent to the sidewalk just during the overnights.
And this would both be in the night, overnight.
Yes, overnight work.
Both, okay, so right lane, both overnight, okay. Anybody else? Rope's here.
Can you tell us what the cost of the installation of the anchors and the cost of the total project?
Do you have the number for the anchors, Ricky, or I can?
Not specific. So overall, because it was partially federally funded. I think it was like a $362 million project overall, but that's the entirety of the Sandy mitigation project.
Yeah, it's $364 million. It was like Ricky said, it was 84% reimbursed by the federal government. So that was about 307 million provided by the federal government. But this specific aspect, the anchors itself, I don't know the cost. I can get that for you.
Another question, will DOT listen to the CB2 resolution as we are just advisory?
I hope they listen to you.
Yeah, I mean, they always come to us for.
Yeah, but will they really listen? I mean, our board meeting is not until the middle of June, right? So, and you want this done as soon as possible, yesterday. So what do you think? DOT is going to really get involved in listening to what we have to say?
This is Port Authority.
Always. No, but he said DOT has to give the okay first.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's why I'm assuming that's why we're here, because DOT said we have to go to Community Board 2 to make sure they're okay with this. So I assume they're gonna.
Okay.
And usually that's the case.
The June time for our full board is acceptable to them for.
Okay.
All right, so Mark Diller just said that DOT confirmed that the June board date is acceptable for them to get.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it would be.
And the
after
last
June board.
question I have, you were talking about digging and drilling into the street or sidewalk. How deep is this drilling? Can you just tell me? I'm just so curious about.
I think the anchors, and they're different because there's different, you have sidewalk, you have some asphalt. So there's different lengths, but I think about 12 inches.
Because Canal Street is a lot of water underneath. That's why it's called Canal Street, because it was a canal once upon a time. So you have to really dig.
Yeah, it's about 12 inches. We're not excavating anything. It's just drilling.
So how deep?
About
Depends.
12 inches.
12, okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's the follow-up question.
Oh, Amy.
This doesn't have anything to do with the resolution, but I'm following what Janine said. So you'll start deploying these 72 hours before the storm that you said, whatever storm you say you have to do it for. At what point will the tunnels, and within the 72 hours, what point will the tunnels be closed so no one can leave through the tunnels? Would that be 24 hours before the storm hits? If you start at 72, you've got 2 days to get through the tunnels. I mean, just curious about evacuation, et cetera.
Yeah, some of those plans are, under development and in coordination with New York City Emergency Management, but it is about like, it's around that 24-hour window, right? Again, it's really dependent on the forecast and when we expect to see those hurricane storm force winds. And, it has to be safe for the workers that are putting this up as well. So, it's probably up to 24 hours in advance of the actual expectation of when we'll see impacts from the storm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would deploy this aqua fence, which, the anchors are pre-installed, so we'd be able to deploy the aqua fence. And then, as Ricky said, you get closer to the storm, and a lot of times during a situation like that, you're waiting for direction from the governors of New York and New Jersey, who control the Port Authority, to see where they are with closing bridges and tunnels, if they even decide to do something like that, which is a major step, but that would come from, that level of authority.
But de facto, once those barriers are up, you can't go through them. They're closed. Right? Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes, but it's done in phases. So the first phase of the installation, we're fully open,
Right. But yes, so you could have 2 days where people could still get through while you're doing the initial, but once they're up, they're closed.
Correct. And then once there's whatever the forecast changes or certainty,
Yeah.
then the priority to removing is those sections that have the tunnel closed.
Right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, right. Like Ricky, you're talking about this section right here on Broome, is obviously right in the way, but the other one in Canal is kind of like, it's a precursor for an entire closure.
Okay. So is there anybody of our guests or anybody from the board, I see Carter's here, that has any questions, comments?
Can you take down the
Has
presentation?
their hands raised? Yeah, Darlene. Right?
Yeah, just
Darlene Lutz.
You should be allowed to talk, Darlene.
Is she on?
She is, just give her.
Darlene? What happened with Darlene?
Waiting.
Oh, okay.
I've elevated her, so maybe that'll make it easier.
Let's hope so. Golly.
She's being elevated.
Oh, got it.
Huh.
Yeah. Darlene, can you try to speak so we can see if we can hear you?
It's possible she left.
She's there.
No, I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry. Good evening. Thank you. Longtime resident of the Holland Tunnel. I'd like to give a shout out to the Port Authority. You guys are really kicking it with the repair on the outbound tunnel. We as residents appreciate it. I have been watching this plan. I also lived through the Sandy storm here, and this seems like a really great placement and of the barriers. So I don't really have any questions. My only comment is that maybe words can get around from the Port Authority to the DOT to the DSNY to lay off the avalanches of salt they are putting down on the streets around here, which are corroding everything, especially this new work, without having cause to do it during the winter. But again, I'd like to thank the presentation. It was very interesting. And I won't be affected by the noise because I live in noise.
Okay, so thank you, darling.
Darlene, what street are you on specifically? Just so
I'm at 80 Varick Street, which is between Watts and Grand. It's the only residential, well, it was the only residential building in the area.
Okay,
so
thanks.
45 years overlooking your fine work.
All right.
So do we have anyone else? I don't see any hands
No,
raised.
no one else.
Okay, so thanks again, everybody from Port Authority. It was good to hear from the different sectors. And again, for your patience, we thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for having us. And if you have any, I'll follow up on some of these things that we talked about. And, you know, if you have any other questions, Mark or Shirley, please feel free to contact us.
Okay.
Wait, 1 minute, 1 minute.
Matthew?
Matthew, did you want to talk? Your hand's up.
It's not,
No,
it's not his.
Oh, it's
the cursor,
it's the
sorry.
cursor. I've never seen a white hand, but now there is one.
Whatever. Anyhow, we are now going into business session.
I'll be next.
And you are all welcome to stay and listen to us, but you're not obligated to. It's simply to decide on where we go from here with these two topics. So we'll go right into accessoride.
Have a nice night. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you again. So accessoride, I guess the question that I have is, do we want to do a resolution?
I think we should.
For where?
Accessorize.
Oh, okay.
I guess the point, what are we?
I just have a running list and I'm sure that people have other stuff, but I have short-term operational improvements, reducing the wait time, increasing the completion rate. I have all the text right there. Increasing the speed for taxi reimbursement and ideally going digital. Linking the app and texting systems, updating the scheduling system. I guess that's going to be ready by the end of 2025, so that maybe not that. And I wrote booking appointment time to avoid indirect routes, but that's less of an issue. And then long term, I heard, you know, they just need more flexibility in terms of pickup time for people who work. Increase, not allowing taxis to go from location A to B and not limiting it to one borough, and making permanent the on-demand program. I'm sure there's other things, but this was sort of the list that I kept going.
Okay.
I would just say a couple things. So at will is out with the language they use for, I can just ask for when I want mine to be picked up. So that's what.
Yeah, you're right, at will.
At will, so yes, absolutely. I mean, whether that's ever achievable, I don't know, in such a big city, but I would certainly ask for it.
Well, I mean, it's just
I
like.
know. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. And then what was the last thing you said? Because,
Make permanent the on-demand program.
right, so I wonder though, I wonder if we just ask, can we see a cost benefit analysis? Because what they're saying is that the people who use it are gonna use it a lot. And no, it's not abuse, it's just, is there money, if you need, okay, so the issue is, there's also the buses and the subways. Does the money go to putting in more elevators, more escalators, blah, or should it go into this program? So
Well, I don't think we ask for, I mean, we can ask for cost benefit analysis, but, I mean, this program seems like it's pretty, I mean, there are some people who don't want to do the on-demand program because it costs them $4 a ride. And if you're really income restricted, you're not going to want to pay $4, you're going to do $2.90.
I'm just wondering, do we want to definitely say, maybe we need an update on the on-demand program? It's been going on for so long. What's
the pilot?
The pilot is like, can you give us a, like, are you gonna do it or not? What are
Or
the
maybe
issues?
it's
Why are you
just
holding up?
expand access to the on-demand pilot.
Yeah, because,
Oh, that's really.
yeah.
Yeah, and I actually wouldn't want to, I mean, the reality is, all of these things are now, and I wouldn't want to make it an either or in terms of adding accessibility. I mean, that's gonna happen by 2055. There's gonna be a whole different set of people using this.
Right. I'm just saying that, I don't know that I wanna say you've gotta roll out this program right now without having more information about it.
Well, they have all the information,
Yeah,
they're
but they're
choosing
not
that.
sharing it with us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so that's all I'm saying is, I think we should bring it up, so maybe it's expand the access. I wouldn't feel comfortable saying, yes, you must roll it out.
Well, expand the access, because if somebody wants access, like nobody, I mean, this guy's a total insider, he probably got access, but somebody else doesn't even know it exists, and that might be a.
Yeah, well, that was the points I was getting at, was that I guess there's a whole segment of people who just don't know the possibilities. And that should be something else.
Yeah.
What's the word?
One of the things
Publicize?
I talked quite a bit with Claudia and Michael before this, and it's like any other government program. You have to really get in the weeds to understand it and use it most effectively. So you're right, it's also not only just being aware of it, but then also understanding all the ins and outs. And one of the things we didn't get to, because we didn't have time, and so we cut it out when I talked to them, is there are advocacy groups that people can join, and that's one of the best ways to get the ins and outs.
Yeah, but that's not what we're
I know,
asking
that's
for
what,
here.
I'm just.
So let's talk about what we want to put in the
Okay,
resolution.
all I'm saying that the best way to find out and understand the program is to join one of these groups, but we didn't bring it up because it's not under the purview of this committee.
But we're really doing this to New York City Transit.
Right, that's what I'm saying, that's why we didn't talk about it, but that is the best way for
No, that's,
people to
but
understand.
they're not asking New York City. This
I
is
know,
connected to New
but
York
I'm
City
not.
Transit. Okay,
I'm agreeing with you, we shouldn't be in any, you're right.
Yeah, but the people who need this stuff the most don't have time to be advocates.
No, but never mind.
look, you know what,
Forget I brought it
honestly,
up.
I have to stop this conversation. We're talking about what we're going to ask for or recommend. I think it's more recommend in resolution. I think one of the things that hit me that Michael talked about was how different people have really different needs.
Yes.
It's the blind guy and the deaf guy and the person that has problems with the hands or the knees or whatever. I think that that's, from my point of view, one of the things I wrote down in my notes, fine tune. And I mean fine tune by that.
people's
Would you
needs.
agree?
For the
Yeah,
people's needs.
fine tune for different people's needs. And maybe to do some kinds of studies to assess those needs. Okay?
They may have
Study
them,
to
so.
assess.
Yes,
Well,
on this, they studies. but-
Whether they do or not, they didn't tell us. And Michael brought it up and they didn't respond to that. Stella.
I agree, and I also want to apply that to kind of what I was trying to get to with my questions about the application process, making sure that the application process is, that anybody with any kind of disability, even invisible disabilities, like cognitive disabilities, have a seamless way to apply. Like advocacy groups would be great. I'm sure they don't exist enough. But maybe doing a study to figure out where are those hurdles in the application process that people get stuck on that weed them out when they shouldn't be, like the televisits. It seems, I read online that they can arrange free pickup and drop off at the application, 3 Stone Street in Manhattan. But that seems like an unnecessary burden to have to go down there. So televisits, that seems like an easy thing. And I wish we could learn more about what other.
Yeah, and I actually I meant to ask this and I forgot. I went on the website. You fill out you can do it by phone, but you fill out an online form and then they mail you one
Yes.
back.
How long?
I mean, like,
What's
Oh,
the
the mail.
I'm concerned.
Yeah, like,
Well, for some people.
Some people need to get
Some
mail.
people,
Yeah, I know.
to the point of, which I think is an excellent one, of understanding the wide range of diverse kinds of
Right.
Needs, right.
people have. I mean, I think basically in terms of anything that we're issuing, I think that's really the umbrella topic here, is addressing a wide range, that it's not a one size fits all, nor did they present a one size fits all.
No, they really.
I thought was actually kind of impressive. And to Stella's question about how people, apply, separate from the mechanics of the application, but I was actually very pleased to hear that their application did not involve a kind of one size fits all. Basically, they just want to know, why do you need it?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to say it's not the other way around. We're only going to give it to you if, they want to hear why. And I think just anything that we can say that really underscores the importance of not having a one-size-fits-all system and recognizing that so far they actually don't have one and that they continue to move in that direction would be valuable.
And I also think
Which is what hit me.
Ian's earlier points about making it more technology user-friendly, also making sure that there's a more analog version, where there still are cash payments, and it still is mailed to you and whatever those other, more.
I think they need to do more outreach and education.
Outreach and education, yeah, that's.
Because, for instance, I didn't know that it's not financially, doesn't matter what your finances are. I thought it was for people who couldn't afford.
Now with the disability program under
I
federal.
had no idea. I just thought it was just for,
No.
I did know. So why, I don't know, because I guess I never needed it.
Yeah, so I mean, she was saying, as far as their outreach, that they do presentations.
Well, this is the first presentation. I've been on the board for 25 years. I've never heard this presentation, which is fabulous.
Right stuff, but it was part of the whole, it's access for disabled.
You know where they need to
and
present? Senior
Yeah.
centers.
But they actually do have certain senior centers.
How do you?
And they do at hospitals. There's social workers know about this. They put them in touch, but there are a lot of isolated people, right? They're not at senior centers.
And
so
how
they
do you
haven't been
get
in a
to them?
hospital
I
for a
mean,
long
do we
time.
recommend media to get to those people they're not getting to? Do we throw that in? Because this thing is really more a recommendation kind of.
Well, we didn't really
ask
hear
that
from,
question.
we didn't really hear from them that that's like not the case.
We didn't ask about outreach.
We didn't ask about outreach.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's very.
She did.
Yes, but
Yeah,
they didn't elaborate, so they just.
Well, she elaborated what
she
they
did.
did, as a matter of fact, and it seemed very limited to me.
Right,
To
so.
me, I mean,
I
they
think
said
they have to
something
reach-
about, they did presentations, but it sounded like it was kind of like scattershot.
Right. They should contact doctors. They should have literature at doctors' offices that talks about the
Well,
program.
There is.
Yeah, that would be good.
It's any medical setting, you can find it. But next time you go to a doctor, I'm just saying.
I've never seen it on my doctor's.
No,
website.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Hospitals, social workers, senior centers, I've seen it.
Yeah, right. It's an interesting thought, though. I think
More
that
outreach.
most
But we'll
doctors'
just say,
offices don't
you
have.
know,
More
Yeah.
outreach.
But anyhow, if you can think of anything, just, so Janine, all your lists,
I already
send it to me and Amy.
but I've got this down here, so I've got.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so the revocable consent, I mean, what's to say?
Right.
An enumeration of what they're gonna do, where they're gonna do it. It's really in that very limited area that we have to give approval. Is anybody against giving the revocable consent? Okay, you know.
Not sure if it will work or not, but we'll see.
I mean,
Hopefully it's up
it's for
before the other
safety
shore.
and hurricane control and all that good stuff, right? So, okay, so that one's an easy one.
No brainer.
Yeah.
Is there an attendance sheet, by the way? I didn't sign.
What?
Attendance sheet. Is there an attendance sheet?
Oh, yeah, I put you in already.
Okay. May I see it?
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna go
No.
through this. I
I
wanna
wanna
just
see
get
this
through
or
this, so I
read it.
have
Read
this
it.
resolution.
this or read
We're
it.
highlighting
Later.
disability varies greatly.
Does anybody know if Joe Flayhaven was on? That was the
No, he
one? He wasn't, oh.
Amy was gonna share.
Okay, I'm
Yes,
just
what?
gonna say some of the main topics we put in the resolution is disability varies greatly, wide range of diverse needs, et cetera. Application process, hurdles, more seamless process, television, et cetera, and more outreach and
Okay.
education. Those are the three main things, and then we've got some other stuff that you're sending that.
Okay.
All right, great.
So whatever, I think we're unan on both, so we're done. You know, it
All right.
didn't take us too long considering it was a really extensive, kind of interesting
Yeah.
presentation. 8:30, we're out of here. Okay,
I might file a.
all in favor of ending the meeting?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay.
So no new business.
Let's get accessory.
No new business.
Any new business? I should ask that.
I'm gonna go home and watch the Knicks game. By the way, I popped in, this is the show that Francine is in the East Village.
Oh, yeah.
First Avenue, Theater for the New City at First Avenue and 10th Street, and it's through July 13th. She's an amazing photographer. And then
They have it.
Francine, she's in the office.
There it is.
Oh, we can close out the meeting. Can you push 10?
Which isn't
Mouse.
shocking, but.
Mouse.
I love those bags, aren't they good?
What?
You,
Lemon bags.
Where's the mouse?
Lois, can you grab me the mouse?
Paris. Keeping it.
Want to take a picture of it? Oh, you did.